Hello, everyone. This is Zen. Today, I'm going to be talking about central bank digital currencies and what you need to know to prepare for this new world. I have a video from January 16th talking about all the different, what's happening in the world with all these different central bank digital currency tests. Highly recommend going back and watching this video. But today, I'm going to be talking basically about the same subject. I believe, central bank digital currencies are no bueno. It's not good. Why do I believe that? Well, I think the real agenda, it basically they showed their cards when the germ first began. So when the germ began, you began seeing immediately, all of a sudden there's a coin shortage. They told everybody to turn in their coins, pulling the coins out of circulation. We also heard the narrative, cash is dirty. It's now, acceptable to go to a store and they say, hey, we don't accept cash. Arenas, all of a sudden don't accept cash anymore, and that's becoming normal. It's normalizing the new normal. That's what they kept telling people over and over again. You go to restaurants, you got QR codes everywhere as a standard for digital menus in like most of the cities that I go to. So things are changing. They programmed us with the a new normal. Well, we have to know the information so that we are protected in this whatever you want to call new normal. I'm going to show you guys two videos from two other people so you can hear their perspectives on this stuff. And I think this is going to be a cool educational video for the people that don't know, the negatives. And speaking about negatives, one of the main agendas, I believe, and you could find multiple IMF documents basically saying that they want to implement negative interest rates, and there's a big problem with it. So the reason they can't implement negative interest rates is because there's cash in the system. Why would somebody basically deposit money into a bank that basically, if there's a negative interest rate? So here's, let me show you this real quick. Where's it? When cash is available, however, cutting rates significantly into negative territory becomes impossible. Cash has the same purchasing power as bank deposits, with the same nominal interest. Moreover, it can be obtained in limited quantities in exchange for bank money. Therefore, instead of paying negative interest rates, one can simply hold cash at zero interest. Cash is a free option on zero interest. So basically saying people will just hold cash. So they want to do this. Let me see. So they're basically saying if they were to move to a cashless world and penalize people for, for holding money, they want people to buy either, consume, or they want people to be participating in the stock market, investing, buying different things, buying assets. We were talking in the Discord the other night, we're moving to an asset-backed world. People with assets are going to be good. That's why the Sologenic debit card is so important. We could have our assets on there and use that instead of central bank digital currency. So let's read. So right here it says, if they were able to do this, cashless plan with negative interest rates, that this would jolt lending, boost demand, and stimulate the economy. So that's what they're going to sell it to us as. It's a good idea to have to do this, to basically, like, you have a time limit on your money before it starts being burnt, and it's all the way. They call it back to the basics. How can interest rates be negative? Central banks. This is what the whole CBDC. This is what the whole end game is, part of it. So what's the difference between centralization, currency, CBDC, between decentralization? I mean, the name gives it decentral, central, polar opposites. So given the increase in popularity of issued assets on the XRP ledger, and the various airdrops going on, it's probably a good idea to remind people that the XRP ledger permits issuers to freeze assets that they may issue. If you choose to hold an asset that somebody issued, unless they have disabled the feature, they can prevent from transferring the asset other than destroying it, and they can also unfreeze after a freeze. So what do you think these central bank digital currencies are going to be issued on? They're going to be issued on probably the XRP ledger, right? And let's say that now, that how when you have a Twitter account or you have a YouTube account or any type of account that you set up, there's terms and services with your Facebook, right? You have to sign up with terms and services. And if you, don't follow those terms and services, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, they have the power to freeze your assets. That's how dangerous this is. Now, on the other hand, this is a powerful feature that permits XRP Ledger to be used and represent transfer of legal obligations. Legal obligations can be frozen by the actions outside of the ledger, such as court order, and the ledger needs some way to represent those external actions. But before you think of an issued asset as behaving like a cryptocurrency, make sure you've checked whether or not issuer has disabled freezing. If they haven't disabled their issued asset isn't like a cryptocurrency. So here's the important quote that makes XRP, sologenic, these decentralized cryptocurrencies different. Nobody issued XRP, so XRP can never be frozen on the XRP ledger. But all assets other than XRP are issued, and their issuers can freeze them unless they revocably given up that right. So, Sol's given up that right, EQ, all the ones that we talk about have given up that right. But will the centralized overlords that already are have their tentacles around us already, will they give up that right? Probably not. They're probably going to love that power of being able to freeze someone's asset if they please. So this is why it's so important, because lots of people are going to be clueless. And that time comes, when you have to exchange your cash, we don't know how many years it's going to take, exchange your cash for digital currencies issued by the central bankers. It's basically like a trap. They're going to act like it's rainbows and butterflies, moving into this new system. But little do you know, if you read the terms and services, potentially they could freeze your wealth if you aren't in line. And that's very, very scary. This is why we do what we do here. This is why we prepare gold, silver, sovereign assets, cryptocurrencies that are decentralized, that, the only way they could come and get them is with force, or you being a dumbass and giving someone your private keys online. Watch out for scammers. If you're new to cryptocurrency, watch out for scammers. Number 2, get yourself a wallet and become sovereign. How could you be sovereign if you're leaving your funds on an exchange? So look into Ledger. My favorite cold wallet nowadays is Decent, DCENT. You're an off-the-grid bank. The Decent wallet, biometric thumbprint in order to release funds or move funds out of that cold wallet. No way, no government entity can access your biometric thumb wallet. They're going to have to cut your thumb off just to get your funds. So there's even those ones cost money, but if you hold XRP, you could get Zum software wallet for free. So yeah, guys, this is just, if you guys are new to cryptocurrency, you want to get more involved, join my website. We have a once-a-week workshop. I'll work with you, and tons of content for beginners. Let me show you guys some of the videos, and I'll play the next 2 videos from the next speakers. So tons of content about, setting up your Ledger account, setting up trust lines, everything that you need to know to basically succeed in crypto. Join my website, $15 a month, $150 for the whole year. You also get a membership into the Discord and my mailing list. But yeah, guys, central bank digital currencies. I know that we talk about them a lot, but we also have to talk about the negatives of this. And if we're aware, then we could prepare and create a plan to win. Everybody have an awesome day. Enjoy the next 2 speakers, and peace.
I wanted to share a Wall Street Journal article with you guys talking about the central bank digital currencies. And I kid you not, this article sounds like it would have been something that I would have wrote. Now, if you've heard me talk about central bank digital currencies in the past, I am of the belief when it comes to central bank digital currencies that it has pretty much everything to do with going into a cashless society and taking interest rates negative. That is my belief of what the whole point of central bank digital currencies are meant to do. Now, a lot of other people will argue with that, saying it's more about tracking and tracing and making sure that everybody pays their, taxes and stuff like that. the like surveillance end of things, being in control of your money. Essentially, this is what a lot of people look at central bank digital currencies and what their intent is with them. Yes, all that stuff will take place, and I'm imagining that it will be as bad as people will think it is. But leading up to it, it's not going to go there. And most people probably won't even care about being tracked or traced or taxed. They already do that on most people anyway, because a lot of people have pretty much exited out of cash anyway. So the idea of being tracked and traced and taxed and all that, that's kind of already happening. And if you're avoiding all that stuff, it's probably because you're some sort of, into criminal behavior, or you just really enjoy your privacy and want to be, don't want people knowing about, where it is that you're spending your money or what you're doing with it. I mean, that's totally legit. I understand that. I mean, there's been plenty of times that I would prefer to use cash because I don't want, bankers or anybody else to just know what all your, transactions are. I don't really feel that way so much anymore, but there was a time in my life where I was very concerned about, every little bit of my privacy. There was a time I never even carried a cell phone because I knew that they were tracking and tracing the cell phone. It was my protest to not carry a phone. And when Edward Snowden came out and saying, hey, they're tracking, you on your phone, everybody was just like, wow, it's amazing. Did you ever hear or ever think that they would do this? And I'm like, yeah, I was telling you guys this whole time that they were doing that. But then after everybody knew, well, then I wanted a phone, and the only reason why I didn't have a phone at the time, it wasn't because I was worried about my behavior. I mean, I wasn't doing anything illegal or wrong anyway. It was just the fact that people didn't believe that it was taking place. And I was like, no, it is taking place. And I am protesting the fact that it is by not getting a phone. And then once everybody believed it, then there was no point in protesting anymore. So I went and got a phone. Now, I mean, that's true story. So anyway, when it comes to central bank digital currencies, if you read this article, it's talking about cashless society and taking interest rates negative. Exactly what I said. Now, in order to take interest rates negative, they have to get the cash out of the system, because the moment that you take negative interest rates to people's bank accounts, and I'm not talking about just like negative interest rates at the Federal Reserve level, like at the Fed funds or the central banking level. I'm talking negative interest rates all the way down to your bank account. Like all the way down, you deposit money into the bank and it has a negative interest rate attached to it, meaning that you will not get as much out as you put in. Once that takes place, people will pull all their money out in cash because they would rather have cash at 0 interest rate than to have a deposit with a negative interest rate. And so knowing this, they will not be able to take interest rates deeply negative. Like they can take them slightly negative. And a few countries have done that, and it doesn't necessarily prove that it works, although it's lasted as long as it has. A lot of, according to this article too, and I've heard this before, that a lot of economists believe that you will not be able to take interest rates much more than beyond 1%. And for the reasons that I'm saying is that eventually people will get to the point of like, man, I am not taking this any longer, and I'm going to start pulling my money out. So knowing that, that's how come you have to implement the digital currencies. And at first, it's going to be like a benefit to the people. It's going to be a way to, like, what are some of the excuses? Banking the unbanked, or, be able to provide stimulus easier, as far as like direct into people's accounts, as opposed to having like a cumbersome mail delivery system or something like that delivering the stimulus. So as far as the selling to the people of central bank digital currencies, it's going to be towards for their benefit, but it's not the case. It's not for their benefit. It's so that they can take the cash out of the system and so they can take interest rates into negative territory. Now, a lot of this is going to coincide with the modern monetary theory. At least this is the way that I feel about it, because really, if it is about central bank digital currencies, if it's really about stimulating the economy and getting like cash to the people's hands, like it won't be cash anymore, it'll be these digital dollars, but getting that money to the people's hands faster, the only way to do that is for the Federal Reserve to directly inject that money into the system, into those people's wallets. And there really isn't a law that allows that to happen, or I should say the law prevents that from happening. There we go. So if the Federal Reserve is actually tied from being able to inject this money directly into the system, right to the people's wallets, then they have to change the way the system operates. So we have to think about this for a little bit, because in order for the Federal Reserve to have this ability to basically create these digital dollars and inject them right into the system, what they're going to have to do is circumvent the way that they are lending money into the system now. And this is a very critical point. Like, a lot of people, they dismiss this, or they just find it too complicating, or something. I don't know. But they have a tendency to believe that the Federal Reserve and their liabilities that are out there aren't going to come back to the Fed. Everything that the Fed has done is lent into the system, and all that debt is due back to the Federal Reserve, plus an interest. If they do not continually expand, then it's in a deflation. It's in contraction, because all the debts that they have purchased, all the treasuries and mortgage-backed securities and everything that they have on their balance sheet, for the most part, is lent into that system. Those debts become due, get paid off, and that money comes back to the Federal Reserve and essentially is destroyed. That's a deflationary scenario. Remember, inflation is the expansion of money and credit. So deflation would be the destruction of money and credit. Now, the prices, those are the results of inflation. And what we're experiencing right now is not exactly an inflationary pressure due to a lot of people taking out loans and buying things. Yes, it's happening in cars and in houses and stuff like that. But a lot of the inflationary pressure that we're seeing right now is due to shortages. Read every article you can find on inflation, and how many articles do you see are talking about the US dollar index falling? You know why? Because it's not. And now the shortages that are taking place all over, there is demand for these products. And when you have a supply crunch and the demand, increase, then yes, you are going to have prices increase. It's the only way it works. And the longer the shortages go on, the longer the price increases will take place. And now how long that goes and how far it takes the prices is anybody's guess. But every time you lock a country down, what you are doing is you are contracting the economic output. You are stopping the flow of materials from getting to the shelves. And now every time you do this in a foreign country, it's like, oh, we don't have consumers in our country. Just hit them with the lockdown, and then it'll just cover it all up. You see where I'm getting at? It's like, if you have any kind of economic problems, New Zealand was about ready to start raising their interest rates. They probably realize now we can't raise our interest rates. That'll really stifle things. Just pick out a COVID case. One case, completely reverse the entire course. So think about these things. I mean, to me, when I look at what, like, Dr. Lacey Hunt said, I'll leave 2 articles down there for you guys. And I think about some of the things that Dr. Lacey Hunt talks about and what modern monetary theory would do to inflation. Now, if you could take the Federal Reserve and have those liabilities become legal tender, where they could inject that money directly into the people's wallets, then you would see probably some serious inflation taking place, where there would be no holding it back. But when you lend into the system, that money is, although it will create a lot of havoc and changes and all kinds of stuff going on in the economy as that money got printed and put in there, but at some point, all that stimulus fades. It's like getting high on drugs. Eventually, you're no longer high anymore, and you start feeling the sobriety kicking in, and you're like, oh, man, things are as bad as I thought they were. And you realize, well, I need more stimulus, right? I need to get high again. And they're like, yeah, man, it doesn't work so well. What we really need to do is lower interest rates. But we can't really lower interest rates with all this cash in the system because, everybody will pull their money out and put it under the mattress. So what we really need to do is institute this digital currency and then make sure that everybody is using it before we start going into the idea that we're going to take interest rates really negative or deeply negative. Because, yeah, this cash, it's too much and it won't work. It just won't work. So the cash has to come out of the system before you see the deeply negative interest rates. And the way they're going to get that cash out of the system is by using the central bank digital currencies. And they're going to make it a benefit to the people, and they're going to use it to stimulate the economy, and everybody's going to be real happy about it. And then the next thing they know is that they will not be able to have any kind of security away from the government's all-seeing eye. Meaning that if you want to participate inside of the system and you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want to, do anything, you better have locked in, and registered and be part of their whole system. Or else you have to sit on the outside and wonder what it's like to be involved with everything that's going on in society. Because basically they're just going to shut everybody out. And, I guess that is a little fearful if you're not prepared for it. You know, one of the reasons why I get into gold and silver, one of the reasons why I get into Bitcoin is because these are things that are outside of that system. And that if the system is going to be so encroaching onto the people, well, then you better have something that they can't take from you. Or if they're going to try and take it from you, they're going to have to take it by force. And they're not just going to be able to just, you know, flip on a computer and take everything from you. It's not the way it's going to work if you understand the system. And if everybody understood the system, then that whole system wouldn't work at all. You know, much like the statement that Henry Ford made about, like, you know, it's good that the people don't understand the banking system, because if they did, there would be a revolution by the morning. Same thing. I mean, that is the exact same thing. If people truly understood the central bank digital currency and what it's going to do when it comes in and becomes like the full-on use with cash out of the system, people will be looking back going, man, remember when it used to be so easy to whatever. And now you have to fall in line. You have to play by the rules, or else, you know, you don't get to play at all. All right. Uneducated economists. Go check out those links. You guys let me know.
All right, so part two of how they make a cashless society, not only do they create negative interest rates to essentially penalize you for holding government debt, what else they do? Well, they make it so that if you put money into the bank, you have a certain amount of time to liquidate it before you lose a portion of your money, i.e., you're going to say, here's a $1,000 tax refund direct deposit. You can buy $1,000 worth of goods today, but the longer you wait, the less. It's almost like taking Social Security early, but to be the exact opposite. You know, you get rewarded for taking Social Security later. It's not really reward, it's an actuarial table, but still, you're being compensated financially for delaying Social Security. This would be the exact opposite thing. It's almost like Medicare. If you don't sign up for Medicare on the proper time, you get penalized, and it gets penalized what falls you for the rest of your life. And the longer you wait, the more you get penalized. And it comes out of your Social Security check. There's nothing you can do about it. So what happens here is they said, okay, we'll give you your tax refund, for instance. We're going to put in your account money that is in there that's held in your savings account. If you want FDIC insurance, for instance, it has to be liquidated within 90 days, or else you're going to lose 10%. If you don't liquidate with 180 days, you lose 20% or something like that. Does that make sense? And so essentially you're going to say, I have to spend this money. How do you spend it? Well, you invest, you buy real estate, you buy a home, or you consume it by buying a new car, whatever it is. You can see that a mile away. And then they'll make it illegal to hold cash. Now they say, I can't do that. Well, they made it illegal to hold gold, man. They interned Japanese people. They interned them. They made it illegal. And not only that, but they made it illegal to hold gold. And this is before high tech. It was illegal. And this was before, owning gold was before World War II. So you can't say, well, the War Act for internment, well, not holding gold. And it was not legal again until 1973 or something like that. I hear this all the time. They can't do that as conspiracy theory. I hear that all the time. I said, what are you talking about, man? They've done this. Now, I'll never forget, I posted out, the mayor is saying mandating masks in Chicago. I said, oh, next thing you know, they're going to arrest people for not wearing masks. And some people said, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. They're not going to arrest people for not wearing masks. And lo and behold, they're arresting people for not wearing masks. I mean, I don't understand why people refuse to see the inherently obvious in front of their very eyes. But anyway, so going back to negative interest rates. All right, so we have negative interest rates, so you don't make any money for holding debt. So we're going to encourage you to buy real inflatable assets, inflating assets, stocks, and real estate, or consume it. Either way is good for the economy, theoretically. All right, so then we can say, okay, but all these people hoarding cash, like they were hoarding gold, we don't want that. That's the exact same thing they did with gold. We don't want people hoarding gold. We want them consuming it, so they're going to have to turn it into the government. They did this in Argentina. The government's going to say, okay, we're going to make it illegal to hold cash. If we'll give you a year, we'll give you $1 for $1 in the first month. Bring your cash in. We'll give you 75 cents for $1 the 6 months, and bring your cash in, just like they did with gold. If you don't bring your cash in 11 months or 13 months, you'll be worthless. You can't use that except for the black market. But then who's going to use cash? Because it says it's traded on the full faith and credit of the United States government, but the United States government says we're not going to take that cash anymore. So there's literally no value, because the government says we're not going to back that. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by the full faith and credit of the government, because they said explicitly we're not going to take this. Can't you see this? It's so inherently obvious to me that they're going to do this, and they're going to get away with it too, because they can easily couch in two things. Drug dealers, we don't want the narcos in Mexico, and then B, coronavirus. Cash has too many germs. You can see this a mile away. That's the end result of negative interest rates, is a cashless society to track you, man. You're a conspiracy theorist. Okay, I guess you can call me that. But if you think that, you're just not paying attention. And you're not even looking at history, man. History is replete with this kind of crap. And then you just look at China. It's not a Black Mirror. It's real life. Black Mirror episode. It's real life happening in China. You think it's that far removed from happening here? They interned innocent Americans and Japanese Americans in World War II. They made it illegal to hold gold before World War II. You think this is hell? Blacks could not even vote until 1964 or something like that. That's basically 60 years ago. Do you think this is that far-fetched to say, we're going to get rid of a cash society, we're going to go cashless, and here's the reason why. And we'll couch it, of course, and make it say it's going to benefit you and your safety. And everyone's going to fall. Everyone's going to fall in line like they are with this. Crazy. All right. Love to hear comments. We'll see you.